Thank you for joining us this morning. Quite a full room we have today. Just want to introduce myself. For those of you in the room, you already got the introduction, but for those of you on the internet, Patrick Welsh here, President, Cities Digital. Today we are broadcasting from the University of Washington campus in Tacoma. We've got a full room, almost at capacity here today, and it's a beautiful day outside, no rain, so I'm sure all of you wish we had this outside today. But today we're going to be covering the education session for Laserfiche and Cities Digital. What we've got is a great agenda scheduled. With me today, I have Ryan Padalita, the account manager for Cities Digital in the Pacific Northwest. I also have Jessica Welsh, Director of Consulting with. So we'll be going through the agenda today, which includes a few different items. First of all, this morning we'll start off with teams, what that means for Laserfiche forms, and how that can be utilized to be most effective, driving your Laserfiche forms experience with the new capabilities that are in Forms 10. Additionally then at 11 o'clock, we'll be looking at the new Microsoft Word integration with workflow. So that's a brand new function that came out in Laserfiche 10. And what that's going to do for you as users is that you may want to be able to generate secondary correspondence or follow-up documentation from a user that might have entered a document or entered into a form. And then you'd like to actually have a Word document generated from that. Laserfiche Workflow can do that, populate a Word document template and process it. This is pretty similar to what Laserfiche has had available for PDF over the past few years with Workflow, but now Word has been added. So we'll take a look at that today. At the 12 o'clock period, we'll have a break with the webinar, and we'll have lunch here. So like mentioned, Panera. So thanks to our sponsor here, Panera. Additionally, we'll be monitoring our P's and Q's today from 12 to 12:30, watching our P's and Q's. That would be pies and questions. So like I mentioned to the crowd here, we have today's excitement is a collection of handmade pies from one of our customers who also has a business making pies. You can look them up at pies.com. So we'll be taking a look at that and eating pies today. And then also from 12:30 to 1:15, a slight change in the schedule. We'll be doing a closer review on differences in Laserfiche 10, because everybody wants to know what's new in Laserfiche 10. It was a very big release, lots of new features. So Ryan will be covering the updates and kind of tips and tricks in Laserfiche 10. So a little bit while you eat, give you a little more time for some extra pie. It's excellent. Then from 1:15 to 2, we'll be covering data sources with Laserfiche. And you'll be surprised how many different places the data sources can be connected to Laserfiche. We'll be looking at how it connects with workflow, how it connects through the metadata manager. We'll be looking at how the data sources connect through quick fields, and we'll also be looking at forms. Then lastly, because Laserfiche Connector 10 was just released last week, I think it was, or 2 weeks ago, Laserfiche Connector 10 will have a live demonstration of that and how we can collect data from third-party applications and then push that into Laserfiche forms. So pretty neat integration point with Laserfiche Forms 10. We also have the ability here for questions, so this is kind of an open forum as we walk through and look at all of these new features, topics. This is really an education session, so for users in the crowd or users that are joining us via the webinar, feel free to ask questions, and we do have a moderator. Sometimes it'll be me, sometimes it'll be Jessica on the webinar. So ask your questions, send the chats in, and then we'll try to make sure your questions get answered. So the first thing to note is DocuSign has an update with our integration. There is a DocuSign workflow module that's now available, and you can see the quick screenshot there. Difference being that the DocuSign application integration that we have historically had for the last few years integrates from the client, from the Laserfiche client only, and the user initiates every single outbound DocuSign transaction. Now we've got an option for the workflow engine to interact with DocuSign directly. So you could have that set up to automatically send out documents to DocuSign right from the Laserfiche workflow engine. So users don't necessarily have to interact with it. We do have an upcoming Abila integration, which is an accounting package that some of our customers are using. And we also have an update coming probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks for the Juncture Cloud integration. And that will allow for actions to attach documents, as well as the mail merge function will be there for Juncture Cloud. So let's talk quickly about the product roadmap that Laserfiche has set forth. We do have the Q2 details as far as what's going to be released. Most noteworthy, I think, is the Quick Fields update for version 10. Lots of customers have Quick Fields. Lots of customers in here have Quick Fields. It's a really popular module that Laserfiche has. Very big departure in how Quick Fields will operate in version 10 when it's released. This will give users an indexing station as opposed to an all-inclusive station. So you can have indexing, you can have scanning and preview. It also allows you to lock down the session much tighter than you have previously. So your users can essentially be scanner operators with big buttons that can see previews. So it's designed for efficiency in scanning. I wish we had a live demonstration to show you, but it's not available to us yet. So when we have that, we'll definitely put that into the user group. There's also a business process library that will be coming out in Q2. Lots of excitement about this at the conference. What this really is, to kind of boil this down, is a collection of pre-made workflows, pre-made forms, pre-made business processes. These are great as a guide to our users to take a look at what can be done, maybe a quick start on a couple of different workflows, but it's no silver bullet. I think we all know that when you want to design a business process or a workflow for your organization, it's always going to be custom. It's always going to be specific to your organization, your users, your process. But these features will at least give you, again, kind of a quick jump start on that. Laserfiche 10.1 will be out as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about what the 10.1 release will have. And then Laserfiche Connector for Rico. We don't have a lot of customers that use that, but that'll be out yet this year still. And then finally, Laserfiche 11 is scheduled to be out at the end of this year. This is a very big change for Laserfiche. They have historically always had 3 to 4 years of time between version releases, and now they're upping that to once a year, which is potentially a really great thing, as opposed to waiting 3 years for that big, 10, 11, etc. They're pushing that out to Q4. So that means that Empower 2017, which you may have a lot of you have probably been to Empower, that conference will be exciting again next year with a whole new version to discuss. So all of this information is very small text. I don't expect you to read this, nor will I read it, but it's here so that when you get a copy of the slides, it's all there if you want to forward this on to somebody. But this gives you a little bit more detail about the product updates, specifically what will be new in version 10.1 will be the PDF files and web access. Document Viewer will be launching directly inside web access, and then you'll be able to read audit reports directly from the entries. So that's kind of a cool new feature that I know a lot of people have been looking for. In version 10.1, there'll also be improved responsive design for your mobile apps. So forms will shrink and grow in size based upon the device that it's on, which is really a nice feature to have. And then in version 11, the business process management server will bring a lot of things together, including the social BPM. So if you were at Empower, you would have seen how social BPM is now this collaboration tool on all documents. And that's something that Laserfiche doesn't have quite released yet, but that's coming. So that'll be pretty exciting when that's available. They'll also be unifying the business process engine further. We'll be able to perform metadata administration directly from web access, so as opposed to having to go to the admin console. This, again, just here for your reference for later, SDK 10 has been released, so the Laserfiche API or programming interface for version 10 has been released. That was, again, very recent. The details are all here. If you're a programmer, this will be great reading. So next up, we have our Laserfiche Teams demonstration, and Jessica will be running that part of the presentation, so I'll turn it over to her.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica again, and I am the Director of Consulting. I also do implementations and training and pretty much anything you need Laserfiche at Cities Digital. Oh, thanks. I am going to talk about Teams. in Laserfiche Forms, which is a new feature for version 10, and I did resist, in case you're wondering ahead of time, the urge to make this all about the Seahawks or unions, so it's not teams in that fashion, but what we're talking about is the ability to distribute work among a team. Just one tiny reference, one tiny. All right, so the agenda for my presentation is going to be, we're going to just do an overview. How many people have forms right now? Okay, so just in case you don't have it or you're wondering about it or you're new to it, we'll talk about what it is and what it can do for you. And if you're thinking or if you're trying to look for ideas of how you might be able to use forms, we'll talk about how you might be able to use it. And then we'll go through an actual setup of how to create a form and assign tasks to teams, which is bringing it all back to teams. So the first thing is, what is Forms? And so Forms is a Laserfiche module that allows you to quickly and easily build online forms. So you could use this for things like collecting information from your employees, from the public, for people to be able to file things, and you can use this as well as part of a process. So normally when you have a form, right, in your business, it's not just a piece of paper, right? There's a whole lot of things that go into that form. So the creation of the form, what information are you collecting, what happens to that information after it's collected, who's involved in the process. So Laserfiche Forms includes a business process component. What does this look like, Laserfiche-wise? It resembles another product in the Laserfiche suite. It does look like a workflow, yes. So there's a little bit of overlap between Laserfiche workflow and forms. And sometimes you have the ability to decide where you would like to control your actions with a form, whether you want to do it in the Forms application or the Laserfiche workflow application. Workflow actually allows you, Laserfiche workflow allows you to have a lot more options and interactions, and so it's more of a flexible platform. But doing it in the Forms application allows some really nice end user experience, such as an inbox and the ability to reassign tasks from a centralized location. It also integrates with the Laserfiche client. So you can take your information that you collect on a web form and you can send it back to your Laserfiche repository, where it can be in records management or where it can enter a further workflow or be integrated into your public portal, for instance. It can retrieve information from other SQL databases, just like Laserfiche Workflow or QuickFields. So if you have a mainline business application where, say, you keep all of your HR information or you keep all of your property information, you can retrieve and make a lookup into that SQL database so that you'll be able to have values in a drop-down in a web form that you don't have to maintain a separate drop-down list. You can just pull it from the initial data source. And there's some bonuses, because what fun is a program without some bonuses? You can also collect payment through an online form. Does anybody have any business that they transact with a form that collects payment? Some people? Okay. So if you license dogs or if you collect any kind of payments, that was just the first, but if you do issue permits, you can collect payments and have this whole process go from paper with checks to online with integrated payment integration. You can also, if you have a public forms portal, you can send people draft forms. So if somebody is working on an exceptionally long form on your website and they need to save it as a draft and go back to it, but they don't have a user login to get back into the program, you can use something called Forms Persist to send that information back to the person so they can pick up where they left off. Whereas normally as a member of the public, if you don't finish, it's a little rough. Okay, so who can use Laserfiche Forms? So it is in Laserfiche application, but it's separate from the main repository. So Laserfiche full users with the Forms user add-on. There's also another level of licensing where if a user is only going to interact with Forms, you can get a Forms participant user. And then if you have the component called Forms Portal, you can collect information from anybody, which could be members of the public or members of your staff who do not have either of these license types. All right, so why would I want to use forms? There's a lot of good reasons. One is that it allows you to collect information that is standardized. So you have a field for each piece of information that you want. This is a lot better than just a free form field that doesn't have any structure to it or requirements. It also allows you to hide and show different pieces of information. So has anybody ever filled out a form where you fill out the first 4 questions, then it says, skip to question 8 if you checked this box, skip to question 18 if you checked this box, and then go back and do 3 through 4 again. With forms, you can set up rules in your form so that those fields are displayed or hidden based on the user choices, so they're not as confused. They're a little more directed on what information they're supposed to fill out. It's fast and easy to implement to set up forms. We're going to set up a whole form today during my presentation here, and we're going to do an approval process. It's mobile, so you can have people take this on their iPads out in the field. You can have people fill these out or engage in an approval process from home or not from the car, right? That would be not safe, but you could do it from a coffee shop or wherever they happen to be. So if somebody was out on vacation, who likes vacations? We're going to talk about vacations a lot today. Must be on my mind or something. But if they're on vacation, they can still approve forms. You can also speed up repetitive tasks. Because you can look up into a SQL database, you can have information pre-filled. So let's say you're doing a student registration, since we're here at the university. If a student has pre-registered but they need to fill out like a change of information form, you can have that student's relevant information to the form they're filling out be pre-populated from a data source. So all they have to fill out is the information they're changing, but things like their student ID, their name, and their email can be pulled automatically from a data source. So you can kind of speed up some of that repeat. Or employee onboarding, that's another one. How many forms do you have to fill out when you hire someone? It's like 8 forms with mostly all the same information. This would allow you to maybe fill it out once and then apply it to all the separate forms. So I have heard, even though this tool is very flexible and has a lot of options, I have heard people unsure of where to start with forms. So I put together some examples, and these are just a few of the examples that we've helped our clients build. The first one is just a permit. So this one happens to be on-site sewage disposal, but it's a permit. So this is official city record, so you can fill it out and then submit it, and that's an official permit application. There's a fire department inspection checklist so that they can check it out and check everything on the list. Those fields can be required, and then they can submit it to the repository for filing or further approval if needed. Electronic home monitoring referral, right? So this is for jails. That's the same one again. Here's a student registration form. So this would be for the initial student registration, but you could do this again to update information and pull the student's information back into the form to populate that top part. Employment application, so if you don't want to have people filling out PDF forms, or you don't want them to have to fill out a paper form, if you want to work for Dunder Mifflin, which sounds like a really great company, you can fill out an online form to work there. Taxi drivers, anybody want to think about driving a taxi? I would not recommend Seattle. It's a little crazy with the traffic over there, but if you wanted to, you could use this for a driver application. Certificate of occupancy, again, this is another property-related form so that you can just authorize some of those forms. They used to be, right, those carbon copy sheets, and now you can just put it all online. Employee incident report, so HR, again, if you want to start collecting any information. This has been a really popular area, being able to just have your staff who already have a Laserfiche license for the most part, right, just be able to log in and fill out forms and report incidents or change information, that kind of thing. Just do it through forms. Here's an escrow release form. Court order, that's another good example. Underwriting. Health insurance application. Another HR form. So benefits, every year you have to update, keep those forms up to date, keep up to date with any changes. Travel request and time off, right? We're talking about a little vacation. This is the one that we're going to look at a little bit later, because who really couldn't use a little time off? So we'll focus on this. This is my last example. But we'll focus on this in a little bit. I do want to take just a moment to talk about teams before we jump into the live demo and what teams can do for you in forms. So teams allow somebody who's creating a process, so this is a business process in forms, to be able to assign a task to multiple people, and that is considered a team. Within the team, you can have specific roles. So the next thing about this, right, is if you happen to be out somewhere climbing Mount Rainier or climbing Mount Everest and you don't have cell reception, somebody else can take your work over and approve all of your forms that you needed to approve because you won't have access. So if you have a team, then multiple people can take work that's available, or you can assign it round robin, and you have some kind of backup. Teams are configured right within the Forms application, so it's online, so anybody who's an administrator can create a team. And then you can assign those tasks dynamic. So that means if you're level 1, anybody who's level 1 can get that task. You can also reassign or remove a task from someone. So when you set up a team, you get to type in a name and description so that if you have multiple teams that are similar, you will be able to specify. You can also specify how the tasks become visible to the users in Forms. So is it only visible to the person assigned to it, or is it visible to everybody in the team? So if I need to know what your progress is on a task, I can look at the task and see where you're at with your process. There are 3 different types of users in a team. There's a team administrator. That's the person who set up the team and who manages the members of the team. There's the team manager. That person can assign tasks to a person or reassign tasks. If somebody has taken it but then they're out on leave for a long time, they can reassign those tasks to someone else through their Forms portal. And then you have team members. So these are the users who get assigned the tasks. And there can be a single team member or more likely multiple team members who would be able to sign up and take the task and assign it to themselves. In addition to those user types, you can also fully define roles. So within a team, for those team members, maybe everybody doesn't serve the same role as part of that team. So some people maybe approve information, whereas some people will just distribute the information. Or some people might create the information, somebody else approves it, and then somebody else distributes it. This is completely customizable, so you can name things similar to how they're named in your organization right now. And this can be used when you assign tasks. So approvers do one thing, and publishers do another thing, or creators do one thing, and approvers do another. Once these roles are created, you can easily add people to the roles. All right, so here's a screenshot of how you add a user. I'm leaving this in here even though we're going to go through a live demo just so that you have it once you get the slide deck. You'll be able to see kind of how we went through the process. It's in the administration area of Laserfiche Forms. And just to confirm, this is something that is now newly available in version 10. So how many people have already upgraded? We have a few people who have upgraded. It is a relatively new product. So it's, I think it just came out in January officially to everybody, so it's pretty new. Some people are waiting for the 10.1 release, which is coming up pretty soon here. So if you haven't yet, you could consider it. And we have a team of people who can help you if you did want to upgrade to be able to take care, to participate in some of these options. We can help you get through that process of upgrading and making sure that everything is compatible all the way through. So within our team administration view, we can see our teams and we can see the users and roles. So you can add a user from your team area. You can assign tasks. So this would be something that you would do within the process modeler. So you can assign tasks to a team. You can apply a JavaScript filter. That's really exciting. How many people here know how to do JavaScript? Yes. Okay, a couple. Well, I do not know how to do JavaScript code either, but I do have some other valuable skills that I know I can use. I can type without looking at my fingers. and I can copy paste things. So we're going to see how that is going to help us to create that JavaScript filter. And then we'll show how to do task distribution. So this is who gets the task. Is it you get a task, you get a task, you get a task, so that's round robin? Or is it assigned to everybody, and then the first person available takes the task and assigns it to themselves? So we'll take a look at that. All right, so what's the best way to take advantage of teams? We're going to take a 1, 2, 3 approach, and we're going to design a form, create a team, and set up a business process. And then we're going to test it, because what fun would it be if we couldn't test? All right, any questions before I move on to that live demo? Yes?
Can you use Active Directory groups for teams?
Yes, you can, because you can use Active Directory for forms now, and so you can synchronize your users. So you would just add it as a team, or to the team, you could just add that group name. We'll take a look at it. I don't have Active Directory set up, but it does say that you can add users or groups.
Are the teams tied to a particular form, or can you use teams?
So the teams are set up in the administrative area, which means that they can be available to multiple processes. They're not set up within a form configuration itself. Yes?
Is there any additional licensing criteria to be part of a team?
So a team does require a license. So if you're going to interact with forms, you will need either a full user license with the forms add-on or a forms participant license. To be a part of a team, you wouldn't need anything additional on top of that. But in order to just get into the program and be able to approve forms and participate in the process, you would need one of those 2 license levels.
So the team would have a license, not a member on it.
So each individual would need a license, yeah. Okay.
What are the differences in your license? You said there's a participant's license, then there's the full user license. How do those vary?
So the forms participant license is somebody who just interacts in forms. There is one additional difference, which is I believe they can't see reporting if they're a forms participant, but they can still approve forms, they can still submit forms, so they can engage at that level. They would not be authenticated into the Laserfiche repository with a forms participant license. So they would just be logging into the forms portal, approving forms, having an inbox, having a task box, but they wouldn't be going into the Laserfiche full client or web access and doing changes, making changes on documents there. If you have users who you want to be part of forms processes, but from the Laserfiche repository perspective, they're only read-only for the most part. So once they submit their form, it goes into forms, or it goes into Laserfiche, and they just are going to look it up after that. You could use a combination of WebLink Public Portal and participant licenses to have somebody have that ability to submit forms, they go into Laserfiche, and then they just have the ability to look them up later. Okay, so we're going to do a live demo. So this is, we're doing a time off request. That was my choice of form, and this is my last time off, Hawaii. So I just did that for a little inspiration for everybody to think about taking some time off. All right, I'm just going to switch over to my forms. All right, so here's our Laserfiche forms process overview screen. And we are going to actually start with the team, right? I said 1, 2, 3. First, we're going to build the team. Was that first?
Team was second.
Team was second. Okay. All right, I'm going to switch it up because it's going to be easier to make the team first. We'll still only do 3 things, I promise. All right, so we're going to go to the administration area, which is similar to where it was in 9. You just click on your name and go to administration instead of just the gear symbol that it used to be. And just taking 1 second here. While we go in administration, does anybody know what you can typically do in administration? Security, data sources, and now team. So those SQL data sources that you want to look up into, setting up your users and synchronizing, and synchronizing users, and then now teams. So if I click on the hamburger button, there's my security. You can see my list of users that were already set up, data sources, and we're going to teams. All right, so big button, new team. So as promised, here's the name and description. Does anybody want to volunteer to name our team? Seahawks? No?
Seahawks.
All right, Seahawks. All right, so now at this stage of the design, we can set up a name, set up a description, and then we can decide whether we want to show team tasks. So for this particular team, is it okay that everybody sees the task at all phases of the process, or should we hide it once it's assigned to only the person who has the task? For demo purposes, it's a little easier to leave it open, so I'm going to do that. And then I just click Next at the bottom. It's a nice wizard, right? Laserfiche loves wizards. Next, next, next. So because I am the one who's logged in here, it automatically made me the team administrator, and I'll leave that because I like being in charge. But I can set up managers that are separate. Does anybody, what does a manager do? Does anybody remember? Yes, manager is assigning the tasks and reassigning if somebody is not finishing their task. So I'm going to make myself manager too, because that also sounds like being in charge. But I'm going to add some other people just in case I was out on vacation. So I don't actually know if I have a group set up to add here. That might be something I have to test later, Andrew. I might only have individual users. All right, so I've got a couple of managers. I know Morgan's watching, so. All right, and then team members. So these are the people who are going to do the tasks and get assigned the tasks. It's important to note that if you are a hands-on manager and you want to do some of the tasks, you have to put yourself in here as a team member. A manager does not automatically get to also do tasks or get a task assigned to them. So, because I really like to be involved, I'm going to make myself a team member also. And then Ryan's here. You can be a team member. And then also do Sean. All right, that's pretty good. So we'll click Next. All right, so roles. We have to create some roles. We don't have to, right? This is optional. But we can, if we wanted to separate out different people to do different tasks within our process, we can create roles. So I'm going to create 2 roles. I'm going to have an approver role. So these are the people who will approve my time off requests. So got a little quick happy there. And then I'm going to have publishers. These are the people who notify everybody, hey, this person's going to be out, make appropriate arrangements. And I'm going to have Ryan be a publisher, Sean. And then I have to go back up here. All right, so these are the people who can approve the time off requests. All right, so once you're done, create your team. We have go. There we go. Go team. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our processes and make our process. Oh, there it is. Okay. Thought our Seahawks left for a second. They're there. All right, so we're going back to processes. So this is similar to version 9, if you're familiar with version 9. We're going to create a new process, big new process button. You can choose from templates just like you could in 9. You have a regular form submission, a form approval process, or a blank process model. We're going to do form approval. And we will name this I do have a sample saved in there that I was testing with, but we'll make this our new time off request. All right, so anybody built a form before? Anybody want to come and take over? No? All right, so the way I build forms process, I like to start with the form and then build the process afterwards. So I'm going to my hamburger button again and go back and go over to my starting form. And then I'm just going to make a time off request form. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a title. And then I want to collect probably the employee name. I'm going to have a drop down for the reason. And if you scroll down, I'll be able to set my choices. My number one choice for time off. Vacation, but I might also need to take some sick time, unpaid time. I'm sure there's many others, but that will get us through today. And then we'll also have to know the dates for when the leave starts, so we can scroll down and add a date. Leave starts on a singular day, leave ends particular day. And then I think it might be good for HR to know how many hours are being requested of. So I'm going to put another single line field. Oops, that got a little off the screen there. All right, so we have our total hours. So super quick form. I'm actually going to have two more fields. I want to have the employee sign, so I'm going to have a signature field. And I want to make sure that they've reviewed this and that it's accurate, so I'm going to make this required. So you cannot submit this form without a signature. Okay, so has anybody done a field rule yet with forms? That's kind of a fun one. I might do one more and have a field rule. So just so we can show what a field rule is, because this is that ability, right, to hide fields under certain conditions and display them based on a user's selection. I think this is really one of the biggest benefits to having an online form, is that ability to make irrelevant fields not appear to your users. So we're going to say if they choose vacation, we want to know where they're going, just out of curiosity. We're not, it's fine. Okay, so all right, so I'm going to have that field there, but I don't really want to know about it if they're sick. So we're going to make that only appear if they say vacation. All right, so here's our form. Time off request is the title. We have our fields. We're ready to go across the rest of the way through our form setup. One thing I like to do, though, that I have seen before is when you create a new process in forms, it's always your form is always called starting form unless you rename it. To rename it, you would go to this gear here. And then from the rest of the time when you're building your process, it's not called starting form. So we'll rename this All right, so next we'll do some field rules. So this is going to be where I set it to say, if their time off reason is vacation, then I want to know where they're going. So I just click on field rules, add new, and I will show that sounds amazing, where are you going, when time off reason is vacation. And then I just click save to make sure that sticks. The next thing over is lookup rules. We're going to skip that for now. But we are going to set a theme. Has anybody here worked with the themes at all? Completely click and drag or clickable, customizing the look and feel of your form. So you can change the colors, you can change and upload a logo if you'd like, just so that it looks like it's yours. So they have a ton of different choices. You know, you can be a little patriotic. You could be springy. There was a yellow background in here.
Custom CSS.
You could also, if you're fancy, do custom CSS or JavaScript to really make your form stand out. I am more of a click and drag person, so I do the built-in themes usually, and do the, here you can customize the background or the title look and feel here. But if you have, say you have a website with existing CSS, you may be able to recycle that information and put it into your form right here so that it looks like it belongs as part of your other website. I'm going to add a logo so that you can see this really quick. So you can choose any picture that you have. I am going on vacation, so I'm going to choose this as my logo. And sorry, this screen is so tiny, you can't really see it. But this took over my whole screen, so it looks very terrible. But it's really easy to adjust that right in Forms. So I could make this only 50 pixels wide, which is very tiny. And then I can adjust it up and down until I like it, and then I can align it left or right. So there you go. We had a form. It took us a few minutes to create. We're almost ready to start using it. So our form is done. Now we have to go back and do the process. So this is the workflow that goes into the form. So once a form is submitted, what should happen to it? You have some options here. You can send it to someone to approve. You can send it straight to Laserfiche. You can email notify someone that it has been received. So we'll look at that. This is very tiny now. Zoom in a little here. Since we chose the approval template at the very beginning, we have our approval activity already set up for us. So we can just click to open that. This is the approval. You can see it's now filling my form with my form name. You can make the form read-only. We can also customize the buttons, so approve or reject. If reject seems a little harsh, you could say deny or maybe later. And then you can also set a due date here. So you can say it's due in 3 days. You can also set a condition if you'd like. We're not going to for this one. All right, so we have our approval. And then if it's approved, we're going to send it to Laserfiche. So I want to, sorry, this is very tiny. There it is. So we're going to send it to Laserfiche. And you have to specify your server. Just like anytime you want to send something to Laserfiche, you have to authenticate in. So we will authenticate in. And then once you get to be able to configure it, you can send it to a path in Laserfiche, right? This could be straight into records management. This could be into an inbox if you have an inbox that's being monitored by workflows. This could also be it could go straight into a pickup field or a pickup form for quick fields processing or something. So you have a lot of different options for what you do with a document once it goes into Laserfiche. You can also choose which form you want to send. So if somebody during the approval process modified the form, if we hadn't made it read-only, we would be able to do that. All right, so then you can choose your path. Your path can be static, so you can choose Laserfiche folders that are already there. But you can also have forms create folders dynamically based on what a user has input into their form. I'm going to put this into my HR folder and then into my leave request folder. And then I will also include a dynamic filter to put these into a folder based on the type of leave. All right, you can also configure fields, so any of the fields that a user types in, they'll be able to go in and collect those and put them into a Laserfiche template when it stores, so you don't have that duplicated indexing. The next thing to do, right, once you're doing, when you're publishing a form is you have to set the access rights, so who has access to this form, and then you have to publish it. And this doesn't automatically save, remember. Your process has to be saved by clicking save. So we're going to set our access rights.
And what do you need access to this?
Access to participate in this process. So even to submit a form, you would need access. So this is where it says users and groups. I'm going to add everybody I have as part of this process. All right, so we'll add those people in to access rights, and then
Why wouldn't you just use the team name? Isn't this everybody in the team?
so access rights is pulling from the people who are set up as users in forms, and teams is a way of collecting those users. I think it's mostly just for process. I actually don't know. I haven't tested if you can add the team. Yeah, Seahawks is not, Forms doesn't recognize that as a user, so that's why I can't add that group here. It's a good idea though. That should be a feature request. All right, last thing, publishing. So when you publish a form, you can customize the link so that it makes sense to an end user. So you can make it instead of what Laserfiche assigns it, you can make it time off request. And then once I publish it, it will become available to the iPad that's hidden out here in the room somewhere, where someone can fill this form out and submit it for approval. We're ready. So in a second, you should be able to see that form appear up here on the screen, and for the remote users, it should be available here. Ta-da! Okay, so if you click Start Process, you'll be able to fill that form out for us and submit it. That is running over Wi-Fi, so it might take a second to load. But once this form is submitted, right, it will go into the approval process. It will wait. Because it's assigned to a team now, it's going to wait as an available task for somebody to pick up and start working on within the available tasks. And so anybody who's in that approver level of the team will be able to log in and see all available tasks that they could pick up, and they can open it and assign it to themselves so that they'll be able to work on it.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm clear, because you're creating kind of an internal usage form as opposed to external. So when you say you're assigning access rights to the form, is that for just the folks within your, like within your entity that can use the form, or is that more like access for the folks to go and make changes or updates to the form?
So that's a good question. There's a couple of different options for when you set up access to the form. So they can either be a process administrator on the form, so where I added those people really quickly to the form. You can change it to be a process administrator, so they can make those changes, or just a submitter. That's your other option. So people you just want to submit, maybe you have a whole group, you just add the group. It's a lot easier than individuals. But you would just choose them to be submitters and everybody else to be a process administrator. Oh, 1 second. Oh. All right. Sorry about that for the web users, just a little iPad tech support. So there is in the room planted an iPad that's displaying this feed to our presenter here. So it's just taking a second for it to load over Wi-Fi. But what we're doing is we're just submitting a new submission of this form to our approval process. So here's our form that we created. We're able to type in the information, and you can watch it live. So nothing like having people watch you type. All right, so we chose the vacation as the type of leave. You saw our dynamic field pop up. Hawaii, excellent choice. Very good. So then you can choose when you start your leave, when you end, and then the total hours that you're going to be out. Spring break, I see, going in March. That's a good idea. It does look deceptively sunny here, but let me assure you that has not been the regular weather around here lately. All right, and then when you sign with an iPad, you can sign with typing, or you can just use your finger right on the iPad to sign it. All right, so then you click submit, and that's going to send that back to our approval process. So any of those users who are in that team who are set up to be approvers will be able to go into their just going to take a second here, it's loading. They'll be able to go into their inbox to be able to see that as ready for approval. So I'm going to just switch back to my inbox. In Laserfiche Forms, your inbox is called tasks, or that's where all of your available tasks that you can complete are. And should be able to click on available and see that. It's going to take a couple seconds to load. Do you have a question?
Can it send a notification that they have a task to approve?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's just, oh, sorry. The question was, can you send notification that there's been a task assigned or that there's a task available? And it's just a check mark in the user task. You would just say send an email notification telling somebody that this is available, and then it will send to everybody in the team. I don't think I checked that. So I don't think that I'm sending out email notifications, but you can customize those email notifications so that they'll say you can use the form variables to customize the email. So you can say new time off request from this person starts this day. Another thing that is now available, I'm sort of running short on time, I'm sorry, but another thing that's now available is filters. So you can say if the time off request is more than 80 hours, then it should be high priority or urgent so that we can kind of speed that up. All right. Let's see. Just going to refresh my view here, see if that form has shown up. But there you go.
Question right here.
What's that? Oh, sorry.
Is there a calendar that can go to, so that everyone on vacation could be on the same calendar so it's at a glance?
That is a super excellent question. So Laserfiche Workflow has the ability to integrate with Outlook so that it can automatically create appointments and put them on a calendar. So you can definitely set that up. The way that you would do that is you would submit this form, send it to Laserfiche, it would collect that information about the leave dates into template fields, and then actually use a Laserfiche workflow to create that Outlook appointment and put it on a calendar. So that's kind of a way to use forms and workflow together, match made in heaven. All right.
Another question right here.
Yes.
So another question I have is, let's say you go through the process, it's been approved, but the person wants to amend their request. Can you put variables in there that will allow for that? Or what if they want to take leave off during this period, but on Wednesday during the leave period, they're only taking 4 hours and they want to specify that? You can put those variables into the system.
Yeah.
Or if they want to pull their leave request back, they put it in, it's been approved, and now they don't want it, they don't need the leave anymore. All of those options are available to us.
Yeah.
Like she said, once we receive their to recall their leave request, then it will put off of that will come automatically.
Yeah, so that question is about whether you can make adjustments to an approved leave that's already made it through the process, or you can cancel the leave, and you can absolutely do that. The only thing you would need to do is just set up the processes that would support that. So you would have, I have a client who's implementing a time off request form actually, and it's a lot more involved than this. There's a lot more pieces and there's some automatic calculations. So that you could set multiple date ranges in a single form, or you could have more options as far as what your leave type is. So some of it's 4 hours is unpaid on this day, but 4 hours is vacation. And then you would just need to set up the process for sending it to Laserfiche to modify the appointment that was already set up on that vacation calendar. Yeah.
So I know that we're talking about a leave form, but let's say we got something more intricate like a court document. And let's say we want to have the if variable then that, so if this gets marked, then all of this information populates on the form, but if this gets marked, all of this information comes off of the form, so that at the end, when the court customer receives only the information that pertains to them on that case.
Yeah, you can absolutely control what displays where. So one of the things that we didn't go over today about forms is that you can put it into and map fields to different fields in the template, and then you can have that information from your fields in forms mapped to a PDF. So you have that ability to display it in different ways for different audiences.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is taking, does it look like it went? I'm going to try one more form so I can just show the teams really quick before I totally get booted off the stage here. It was? Okay. All right, it's just taking a sec to get back here. Oops. All right, I'm going to try one more to see if we can see the form. ooh, this is another cool thing I was going to show. So if you are an authenticated user, you can actually store your signature in here. I signed this with a mouse. Don't judge. So you can store your signature in here so that you don't actually have to sign it if you don't want to. All right, so the last thing I wanted to show was just being able to pick up a task. We'll just double check and see if it got to my inbox yet, the previous one. This one's submitting, there we go. So just in case it doesn't catch up, the tasks that are assigned to a team show up under the available tasks node here. So you'll see a list of all the forms that have been assigned that are available for you to be able to pick up. All right, so here's my task. So I can see it now. One of the things that's really neat is I can also click on it and I'll be able to see an action history. So when was it submitted? When am I getting to it? And as a manager, I can then later report on how long is it taking to turn this around, that kind of thing. So I now am able to approve this. In order for me to approve it, I'm going to have to assign it to myself. As a manager, if this had been assigned to someone, I could reassign it to someone else. And I can also edit the due date. So I'm going to assign this to myself, and then it goes out of the available tasks into my tasks, where I can now open it up, take a look, and decide if I want to approve or deny this. So that's just like a regular forms approval in version 9. It works the same way. All right, so that completes the demonstration of our forms process. Does anybody have any last questions? So once I submit approval, it goes away. All right, so forms teams are new. We saw a couple other new features here, but the main message here is that being able to dynamically apply tasks and being able to reassign them allows you a lot more flexibility than previously was available for forms. So this is a good thing to keep in
We have
mind.
one question from the internet.
Ooh, the internet.
Jason has a question. Can you build approval hierarchy so it auto assigns the task to a specific user?
A hierarchy. You can build dynamic rules for how it assigns tasks. So if you go back to your process modeler, you are able to, when you're choosing who to assign it to, you can choose to assign it to someone based on a JavaScript filter. So that's exciting.
We move on around robin, like, goes to this person first for approval and then next person.
So I think round robin only exists within within one task. So it's either approved or denied. That's like how it assigns the initial task. But if you, when you're assigning it, go from one person to the next person. So we could create a hierarchy in that we could, if one person approves it, it goes on to the next person, to the next person. So right now we only have one approval task, but we could easily add, if this person approves it, add another person, right? And then another person. And then finally, once it's approved, it goes into Laserfiche. And then when you're assigning it, oh, this is my problem. So you would assign it to your team, and then within your team, you could have those different levels of, here's our Seahawks team. You could have those different levels of people in the team. So publishers, approvers, or managers, then directors, then admin for the creation of the appointments. Any other questions before I turn it over? Late?
How about the use of this form internally versus externally? Is it much different to create it for an external user?
Oh, no, it's just a checkbox that says public, The only thing is that you need to have that Forms portal, which is a separate add-on for Laserfiche, and that allows you to collect forms. So anybody can log in and submit a form, whether they have a Laserfiche user or not, to your Forms portal. Then somebody with an authenticated user would have to approve it. But yeah. Okay, so I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan. Gets to be